What is going on, guys? It's Jono, and today we're going to be talking about how you, in one click of a button, can generate a fully customizable ebook to send off to your customers. Take a look at this. So in front of me, I have this ebook that I generated using artificial intelligence in literally, well, actually 0 clicks. The actual user would be doing all the clicks for you. So I guess it's officially 0 clicks, but this is essentially what it looks like in front of me, right? So we have an ebook, a PDF file. It's gonna break it down into chapters. There's gonna be an intro, there's gonna be an outro, and there's gonna be images for all of these different sections in your ebook, right? The images are gonna look beautiful, all generated automatically. You can scroll down and see an entire ebook on whatever subject that you want, right? And in addition to this, you can let users fill out whatever information you want, but specifically, think about the use case for something like this. Like, this could be great if you're looking to generate an ebook yourself. Maybe you want to sell that on a place like Amazon, or maybe you have an online store that you want to sell it. Maybe you want to provide it to your particular clients. You could do this as a lead magnet. So think about this form in front of us right now. Think about having somebody sign up to get a quote right from you, and you also have a lead magnet where you send them a free ebook. That could be a really, really nice offer that would push somebody over the edge to want to actually move forward with inquiring about your product or your service. Think about a newsletter sign up as well, where somebody could come in here, right? And they could enter in their information because they want that ebook. So this is a great way to generate more leads and more interest in the products or the services that you're selling. And if you take a look here, you can allow the user to customize what it is that they're looking for. So they can customize the title, they can customize the description, the tone of voice, the target audience, the number of chapters, and also the reading comprehension level. So it can come up with a completely customized different PDF ebook for that particular user. And we are going to be generating this from top to bottom in this video. We're going to be using a platform called make.com. This is actually the exact scenario that we're going to be building out. Now, if you guys have no experience with make.com whatsoever, that's totally okay, because we're actually going to be walking through that scenario I just showed you from top to bottom the whole way through. Even if you don't know anything about make.com, we're going to be walking through it together. Now, the cool thing is these blueprints are going to be down in the description below for absolutely free. All you have to do if you want to import those is click on this more button down here, import the blueprint that I have in the description, and then just choose the JSON file. You'll have to connect your accounts in like Google Forms and ChatGPT. You can save it and you're good to go. You'll be able to access it absolutely immediately. Now, just before we dive into this, guys, please make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Also, make sure to give me a thumbs up. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave it in the description down below, and I'll also get back to you as soon as I can. Let's dive into this awesome scenario right now. So we're going to be using make.com to build this whole scenario out. We're also going to be using ChatGPT as well, and then Google Forms. So those are going to be the 3 main softwares that we're going to be using. For those of you guys who don't know what make.com is it's an automation platform, and it's one of the coolest platforms you'll ever come across. Maybe I'm a bit biased when I say that, but I absolutely love it and I use it every single day. So what this does is it automates tons of different applications together, specifically over 10,000 automations together. Whichever applications you're using, it can probably integrate into make.com. So think about, in this case scenario, right, we have a workflow here, and you submit a Google form, right? And when you submit that Google form, it's going to then next generate an outline for that blog post. And then it's going to go through all of the chapters that you want to generate. It's going to generate an image, and it's also going to generate the whole chapter for you, right? It's going to zip that all back up into a PDF, and then it will generate that PDF and send that to your client's email, right? All of these applications you're automating together using make.com. So if you guys are new to make.com, just go ahead, sign up for a free account so you can get started for absolutely free. And once you're inside, we're going to create a new scenario. So under the scenarios tab here, we're going to open that up, and we're going to select create a new scenario at the top here. And let's get into it. So the first thing that we're going to be wanting to do is we're going to have a trigger here. Now, what a trigger here is it's a fancy way of saying, hey, we're going to start this workflow, right? And the way we start this is by somebody filling out a form. So think about your website, right? If you have a newsletter sign up, if you have a lead capture form, this is where that would start. They submit the form, and then we're going to generate or start building this ebook out, right? So the first thing we're going to do is connect in Google Forms. And the reason we're using Google Google Forms here is you technically like could use any form builder you want or website builder or whatever. I wouldn't be using Google Forms personally if I was doing this, but the reason I'm using it in this video here is because it's free to get started and it's just free to follow along. Anyone can get started without paying anything, right? So we're just going to use this, and if you want to go ahead and choose another platform, you're welcome to do so. What we'll select for the trigger, because there's a lot of different things here, right, is we want to watch for responses. And what watch for responses means is that this trigger, or the starting point, will only start when we get a submission. So only when somebody clicks that send button here will it actually start this workflow, right? Okay, cool. So we're going to choose watch responses, and then we need to enter in the form ID that we want to start this workflow, right? So we have to go over to Google Forms and we have to build out a form, right? So if you haven't done so, or well, obviously you haven't, but I've gone ahead and done it. But what you can do is you can just generate a form, right? And this is what it's going to look like. So in Google Forms, you'll just pop into it, and then you'll hit the big plus button here, right? And then it'll create a new form. And the fields we're looking for is we want to have an email field, first of all. Then we want to have the title of the ebook, but actually before the title, I just want to add two more fields in here. I want to add in first name, and I also want to add in last name as well. And the reason I want to do this is because when we send off an email, we want to address the person by their name. Like, hey, Jono, I'm just sending over your ebook right now. So we definitely want to include that in here. So email, first name, last name. We're going to ask for the title of the ebook. We're going to ask for a description of the ebook, target audience, tone of voice, right? There's lots of different tones here: professional, friendly, persuasive, authoritative, casual, inspirational, humorous, technical, how many chapters that you want, and then reading level. Now, keep in mind, you can add as many different variables in here that you'd like, right? This is just something that you guys can play around with and come up with your own formula, but I think this is a great start. The biggest thing here too is tone, right? You want to give the user the ability to select the tone they want, because this is how it's going to sound when somebody, or how it's going to sound when somebody reads it, right? So these are the questions. And then coming back into make.com, we need to get this form ID. Now we can actually just get this from the URL here, and the URL contains that ID, and it's after the d/ and before the /edit, where you can see that I've highlighted it up here, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll add that form ID into the top here. That is the unique identifier, so that we can grab the actual form. And the limit we want is just one, right? We just want to make sure that every single time somebody submits it, we only grab the most recent response, and we'll click choose manually for now, right? Now, in this form, what I want you guys to do is I want you to click send here and click on this link, copy it. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to go forward and enter in all of this information yourself, and you're going to click submit. And once you've clicked submit here, we can come back into make.com, and we're just going to choose manually from which response we want. So you can see I got an error there. You just need to make sure the connection is correct. So I'm going to choose the right account. So whatever forms account I'm using here, right? Which in this case, you can see kind of, oops, if I just exit it here, you can see the account that I have up here. I just want to make sure that that is also the connected account here. And we can click OK, and we'll choose manually after, and this is only going to return results after you have submitted that form. So just make sure you've submitted that form once. We'll click OK. Awesome. We're going to run the results one time. And you can see here that we actually didn't get anything. So we'll try one more time. We'll choose where to start, and I'm going to select manually here. And if this doesn't pull anything together, then I'm going to resubmit it. So, okay, sweet. So we have all of the information here. So this is great. Okay, awesome. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to connect in ChatGPT. Right? So we'll type in OpenAI up here, and we'll select OpenAI. We're going to create a completion, right? There's a lot of different things that we can do here, but in creating a completion, this is going to allow us to take the user input. And the first thing we want to do with that input is create a general outline, right? And the reason why we want to create a general outline, by the way, is because typically speaking, when you're using OpenAI, at least at the time of this recording, you're not going to be able to say, hey, can you generate me a 96,000 page document? It's just not going to happen, right? It usually cuts off at around 1,500 words, right? And even if you tell it, hey, generate me 10,000 words, it's just not going to do that for you, right? So we want to segment it into chapters so it can focus on one priority at a time. And we also want to give it an outline, because if we give it a nice, if we ask for an outline first, it will give us bullet points and give us items on what we should talk about in every single chapter. And then we can take those items and that information, and then we can create from that outline a really detailed chapter for every single section in the ebook. So coming back in here, we're going to choose a model, and I'm going to choose GPT-4o-mini. Now, usually when you guys see me create videos, I like to use GPT-4o. The thing is that the older the models are, the cheaper the tokens cost. So when you're writing an ebook, especially something that could be like 90,000 words, for example, you probably don't want to be spending a freaking ton of money on these tokens, right? You probably want to get it for a bit cheaper. So how you can do that is by just selecting the GPT-4o mini, and this is going to cost a lot less. Now, tokens, we're going to select something like, let's say 2,000 or 3,000 here. Tokens is just another way of saying how much is this going to cost. GPT or OpenAI charges you on a token basis. So the more tokens that you use, the more money it's going to cost. Okay, awesome. Now there's a couple things here. We need to add a message here. And the first one is going to be a user. And we're going to give input into ChatGPT on what we want to receive back. So essentially, in a message like this, we're telling ChatGPT what it is that we're looking for. Now, I've already created this, so I'm actually going to just copy this in here and then paste it in. And we're going to do something called mapping. And what mapping is you can see these two modules, right? When you go to a new module, so in this case, ChatGPT, you can access all the previous information from past modules too. So you can use that information in future modules. So in this case, I can access things like the title by coming into here and selecting title, and then text answers, and then answers, and then value. The one bad thing about Google Forms in make.com is you're probably going to want to kill yourself by the amount of times you have to drill down into all of these values. It's just horrendous. So if you end up putting in like 50,000 different things here, I am so sorry. I deeply apologize in advance because that sounds terrible. Okay, anyways, we'll just do description here, answers, value, and then we'll do tone of voice here. Tone of voice, text answers, answers, value. The one good thing about this is that you only have to do this once, right? And then once you do it once, then you're good to go and you never have to do it again. Okay, sweet. We just have a couple last ones here. Number of chapters. Okay, we're almost done. Text, answers, value. Okay. And last official one, reading comprehension level, levels, answers, value. Oh my gosh, that felt like an eternity. I don't know about you guys, but that that was horrible. Okay, good. I'm gonna click OK and save this furiously like 17 times just to make sure I never have to ever do that again in this video. Awesome, cool. So we're pretty much good to go. In this message, we're saying, write me an ebook outline based on the following information. We're passing in the book title. So it's saying, hey, book title is this, the book description is this, the tone of voice is this, target audience is this, number of chapters is this, and so on and so forth. Now, there's a couple things that we want to add in here. So we want to add another message here, and we just want to give more information to the system here. So we're going to add in a role here, and an assistant here. And in this assistant, what we're going to do is we're going to add in an additional 2 chapters. So in addition to the amount of chapters we have here, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here. In addition to the 5 or 6 or however many chapters we grab here, please add 1 chapter for an intro and 1 chapter for a conclusion, okay? We just have 2 more steps here. So in the show advanced settings down here, we're gonna toggle that on, and we're gonna come down here and we're gonna do 2 things. The response format should be JSON instead of text, right? So we're gonna do JSON object, and we're gonna parse JSON. So what that means is that it's gonna return the value in JSON format, which is a way of structuring information. think about it this way, right? Like when you click onto this and you're kind of like drilling down, this is kind of like JSON here, right? So we're formatting it similar to this. So then the next module, we can come in and instead of it just being like, hey, we only have one output, which is the text that it writes, we could have like 10 or 15 outputs. We could have, so many different parts to this, right? So what we're going to do is just one last thing here, and we're going to add another assistant, because in order for this to work, right, in order for us to parse the response in JSON and have the response format in JSON, we also need to add one more role, which is a system role here. And we need to add in this, right? Now, before I copy and paste this in here, I'm going to show you guys how to get this, because I don't want you to just depend on copying and pasting this in. I think it's really important to actually understand what's going on here and how you can do this for yourself. So I'm going to type in, I want the output to be JSON separated by chapters. And I'm going to just paste this in, right? Simple enough. We'll click save. We're going to run this module by choosing where to start there and then choosing manually. And in a second here, we'll be able to select the result that we're looking for, and we're going to run this scenario. Now, this is just generating that outline, and it's going to return it back to us with JSON here. Okay, let's take a look at the results here. So you can see that it returned it to us: title, description, tone of voice, target audience, and then chapters, which is great. But let's say that it returns this output for the first person that inquires about this ebook, but maybe the second or the third or the 200th person, it changes the output. And then instead of it being like title and description and tone of voice, and maybe tone of voice isn't like written tone _of_ voice, maybe it's written a different way, right? We just want to remove any possibility that this could be an error, right? So we're going to come into this download button and download output files, okay? And what we want to do is grab everything in between the results section here. So this is the output that we're getting, and we just want to grab this line here all the way down to here, right? So we're going to grab all of this. So the first, like this curly brace underneath results here. And we don't want to include like ID or object or created. This is going to come every single time anyways. And this is going to be unique to that particular instance of you calling ChatGPT to render or deliver this particular outline here. So we'll copy this. And just to speed up the workflow, we're going to use ChatGPT here. And we just want to change the values to a placeholder. So please take this JSON data and change all the values to placeholders. And then we're going to just paste this in here. And I actually just want to get rid of this brace here and this brace here. So there's not going to be those curly braces. It's just going to go straight into title. And then at the end, it's going to end on this like little square bracket here. And then we can just paste it, right? And all we're saying is with this, we're like, hey, take all the values, and all the values would be like the title here, where it's going to change this to a placeholder text. It's going to change this to a placeholder text, this to a placeholder text, this to a placeholder text. It's going to go through all of these values and change everything. And you can see the output here is title placeholder, description placeholder, so on and so forth. The reason we're doing this is because when we generate this over and over and over again, we just want to make sure that ChatGPT doesn't come in here and it's like, oh, you need me to generate it exactly like how the text is written here. We're just giving descriptions so that it can recognize that, hey, this is just a placeholder. Okay, awesome. And then we'll come in here and we'll come back into the system role here, and it says I want the output to be JSON separated by chapters. Here is the exact structure of data I want you to follow, but there could be, there will only be X amount of chapters, right? And X amount here is going to be the number of chapters here. So we're going to put the value here, which in this case would be 7. And then we'll paste this down here. Okay, awesome. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this because we're adding +2 up here, we're adding a chapter for the intro and the outro. So instead of including that, I'm just going to say, but the amount of chapters could always be different, right? So we're just prompting ChatGPT to let it know that, hey, just because we entered into here 9 chapters in this template doesn't mean there's always going to be 9 chapters. We'll click OK, save that, and then run this module. And most of the heavy lifting is now done for the ebook, believe it or not, I believe. So we'll click OK and we'll run this. It's going to generate a response here. And then we will continue on to the fun part of this. Okay, sweet. So we have the response. Everything looks good. It's following the format that we're looking for, right? Super cool. Now what we want to do is we have all of these chapters, right? You can see if we drill down into chapters, we have 8 different chapters. Super cool. How we go about this is we want to go through each chapter and generate an image, and then also generate the actual chapter text, right? So what we do is we use something called an iterator in make.com. And with the iterator, what we're going to do is go through one chapter at a time. So we'll start with 1, we'll generate the image and the text. Then once that's done, we'll go through chapter 2, and we will generate the text and the image, then chapter 3, and so on and so forth until the whole ebook is done. So clicking the plus button here, we can use this iterator, right? This will go through those chapters, chapter by chapter. And we will drill down here into results and chapters and click OK. And then we can go ahead and generate as the next prompt here, both the image and the text. So using OpenAI, once again, we'll actually use Dalle 3 to generate an image, right? So if you just type in an image at the bottom here, there is generate an image using Dalle 3. And we'll select the model, and I've created the prompt already. So we'll go ahead and I'm just going to copy this in, and I'll walk you through what this means. So you're creating an image for an ebook chapter. Here's the chapter you're tasked with creating an image for. And then you're going to give it as much information as we possibly can, right? And in like what you might want to do is grab the title and the description from here, but what we actually need to do is grab it from this flow control here, right? So this is going through each chapter one by one, and this will give you the exact chapter title based on whichever chapter it is. If you were to do any of these previous modules, by default, it would just give you the first chapter and the first description, and it would never change. But with the flow control, because you're going through one at a time, for the first run, it'll give you the first title and description. And for the 8th run, it'll give you the 8th title and description, which is super cool. So we'll enter in the chapter title here, and the description will be also the description down here. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to do one thing just to save us a ton of time here. And I'm going to add a filter in here. And what that filter is that the chapter number is equal to 1. Now, what this means is that we're only actually going to run this once, because it can take about 2 to 3 minutes to run this scenario every single time. And I don't want to wait 2 to 3 minutes just to test every single time. And then once it's perfect, it's working, then we can remove this filter and it'll create the whole ebook for us, right? But just for the testing purposes, we'll leave that on. Now, we can come back in here. And I'm just going to take a look at the advanced settings. You can change the size of the image if you want, or the quality or whatever. The response format needs to be URL down here. So just make sure it's submitting a URL. The next thing we're going to do is generate the text, right, for the ebook chapters. Awesome. So we'll once again use create a completion. Okay, and the max tokens, I'm just gonna put in 10,000 for now, just because I don't want it to cut off, right? If you put in something too little, what's gonna happen is it's just gonna cut off and not complete everything. Now for the model here, we're gonna use GPT-40-mini again, just because it's gonna cost significantly less. And for the roles or the messages, I've already created this, so I'll just paste these back in here. Okay, sweet. And the first role will be user. And here is the message. So please write chapter, and we'll enter in the chapter number here. So chapter 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever chapter we're writing of my ebook on. And we'll pass in the title from the actual form submission here. So if we kind of zoom out here, we're going to grab it from the initial form submission, the title. And the reason why we can grab the title from the form submission is because we only have one title per ebook. The title doesn't change per chapter. We only have one. So we can grab it from the beginning. So we'll come back, title, text answers, answers, and value here. So there's the title. And then here are some general rules of the book, right? I'll click OK here. And I'm going to actually copy all of this back in, right? Because it's important to reference this again, because when we're generating the chapter, it doesn't have information from this last OpenAI call, right? So we want to give it as much information as possible so that this, when we generate that exact chapter, it can deliver us the best results. And I'm also going to say, here's the outline for the particular book, right? So what we're going to do is call the results in section 2 here as well. So we're going to pass in the outline that we created. So the results, we'll just add in we'll just click results here. That'll include the title, description, tone of voice, target audience, chapters, all of that kind of stuff, just for ChatGPT to understand, analyze, and be able to deliver a good message back to. Now, just a couple other messages down here, and we'll go through these one at a time. The next one is going to be a system message. Now, with the system message, we just want to make sure that the response that it delivers is in HTML. It's important that it's not in plain text, it's not in any other format, it's specifically HTML. And the reason why we want to do HTML is because we want to insert these images into it, right? And we're going to use ChatGPT to actually programmatically go in here, right? And insert these images before the chapter heading, but after the chapter heading, but actually before the chapter, right? So every chapter will have an image, and we're using HTML to do that. Now, you don't actually have to know HTML because ChatGPT is going to take care of all of this for you. So there's like nothing you have to worry about there. This will be taken care of for you. The next system message will tell ChatGPT not to add any additional commentary or notes or information before or after the chapter. We just want the chapter. We don't want it to be like, hey, by the way, here's your chapter for this ebook. Let me know what your thoughts are. And then that actually gets printed out and then sent to the client. That's going to be super embarrassing. So obviously you want to avoid that. And the last thing here, there's actually 2 more. We're going to do another message here, and this one's going to be an assistant. And the message content is going to say below the initial H2 tag, right? Which will be the header, right? So in HTML, there's multiple headings. You can have heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, all the way to 6. You have the main heading here, which is for the whole blog post, and you're only supposed to have one H1, typically speaking, but you can have multiple H2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s. So for every single chapter, we're always using an H2. But what we're saying here is that for the primary header for each chapter, use an H2. Right? So in other words, you have this chapter 1 is H2, and this chapter is this is H2 down here, right? But in between, below that H2, but before anything else, please insert that image, and we're going to provide that URL from Dalle, right? So in data, we can add in that URL here. And that's going to programmatically add the image in here. And just the last thing we want to do is do another system announcement to ChatGPT to let it know. Do not include things like HTML, it's / or whatever that is, HTML or anything else at the beginning, because we just want to avoid that entirely. And that seems pretty good to me. I think that is all we need to do here, and we can click OK. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to go ahead and it's going to generate those images, and also it's going to be generating the text here, right? Before we test this, we're just going to do 2 more things here. We're going to add in an array aggregator. Now, what an array aggregator is doing here is it's going to bundle up all of the results, all of the chapters, and paste it together. So think about the iterator, right? We go through chapter 1. And then we go through chapter 2, and then we go through chapter 3, and then 4, and then 5 individually, right? But then the array aggregator is saying, hey, okay, we've gone through all these individually, right? But let's bundle them all up together again. So instead of continuing on doing everything, one by one, we're gonna now merge them all together. Because what effectively would happen here with the array aggregator here is if we didn't have this, we would generate 8 different PDF documents for each chapter, right? But instead what we're doing is we're saying, hey, you're gonna go through the first, generate the image and the text, and the second and the third. And then once you generate all the chapters and this iterator is done, then we're gonna bundle it all together, and then we're just gonna complete all of the other executions one at a time. So all of these are just gonna have one run. But if you didn't have this, it would mean that there was 8 runs going for every single one, right? So your PDF would be like chapter, it would only be one chapter at a time, which is obviously what we don't want to do. So this array aggregator will bundle everything together. And the source module for this is going to be the iterator here, right? So we're essentially saying, hey, when this iterator is done, right? So when this is done, then we can proceed on to the next step, right? We don't want to put it on the OpenAI things, because if you do, then the second this is done, it's going to run and it's going to create 8 different PDF documents. So we just make sure that the source module is the iterator. And then what we want to pass in here is everything from everything here, I guess. We can just select everything and click OK. We'll save that. And one last thing that we want to do here is we want to set a variable. So set variable. And we will call this results. And this is just a bit of a tricky formula. I'm going to break this down what this looks like here. But you'll see that we have this array here, right? This is going to be all the results that we get from this array aggregator. So it's bundling everything from the iterator, it's bundling in the image, and it's also bundling in the chapter text response. We're going to merge that together. And with that array, we're going to do 2 function calls on it. We're going to do a map function call, and we're going to do a join function call. And I'll go through what both of these mean individually, and we'll start with the map. So what's going on with the map here is we're mapping over this array, and we're just creating a new array. An array is a list, right? It's a fancy way of saying a list. So a list is all the chapters 1 to 8 in this example. We're taking out the chapters and we're creating a new list, so it doesn't contain things like ID or object or model or whatever, because all this is BS and we don't care about this. Like none of this other stuff matters at all. So we're just creating a new list with just the chapter data, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to call the join function on top of that. And what the join does is it takes the chapters one by one, all those 9 chapters, and it removes it out of a list and it puts it into a string. So now you have a string of text instead of a list of text, right? And there's 2 things for the map. So you have the array, or you have the data, the list, and then you have a second field here. And this second field, I put in result because that is what we're going to use to figure out what we want to pull out of this array. We could put, for example, object here. We could put an object and it would take out the object field here. We could put in model and it would put out the model, but we don't care about this other stuff. We just care about the result up here. So we're putting in result, and then it's going to grab that. And then with the join function takes in 2 parameters as well. And what that join function takes in is the text that we want. And then, and what that text is everything here, the map, right? And then for the second parameter, so this is, I'm just going to write in text here just so you guys get the point. And then for the second parameter, it's how you want us to space out everything properly, right? So is there something you want us to put in between all of these chapters? And what I want to put in is 2 line breaks here, right? So when we go from chapter 1 to chapter 2 here, there's 1 line break and then 2. So there's technically 2 line breaks here, right? So 1 and then 2. Otherwise, it would be like upwork here and then straight into chapter 2 on the same line, which is obviously not what we want. So we just add in 2 line breaks. And then that's going to get us the result that we're looking for, which is going to be our whole ebook. So I'm going to click save here, and then we're going to go ahead and try testing this out. Remember, we have the filter, so it's only going to provide us with, I'm going to change this to 2 different outputs here, save that, and we'll choose where to start and run this module. And I will pause the video and come back when this is eventually completed. Okay, so we got the results. I ended up actually encountering one mistake that I just want to walk through here. So the mistake is that it returned not the results, but it had like an object in here, which is a bit hard for me to kind of explain by just talking about it. But essentially in the array aggregator, we want to remove all the fields, everything, and we just want to select results. That's it. Nothing else. Don't include anything else. All we want to do is click results. And this is what the output is going to be. It's going to be HTML, right? Now, don't worry about HTML if you're not too familiar with this, because this is just essentially allowing us, and the reason why we're using HTML here is because we want to insert these images in here, right? And if we just pull in one of these files here, we can load up that image and take a look. So for whatever reason, it's not going to let me see it here. Maybe I just didn't, it's because I didn't copy and paste the image properly. So if I download the output bundles, make.com is notoriously bad for letting you grab these images. As you can see, this is atrocious. But let's just try and see if I can grab this here. Okay. So that's the image that we just created, right? And so using HTML, it's going to allow us to render these images in the text file. Okay, sweet. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we're just going to convert everything one more time into HTML, just because I want to make sure that in case there's any mistakes, we're still rendering it in HTML regardless. And we're going to choose this markdown to HTML bucket here, and we'll add in the results here. Okay, there's 2 more things we want to add in here. We want to put in the title of the document. So if we come back into the Google form, right, we had the user submit the title of the document, and we can just pull it from, once again, the forums again, because there's only one title for the whole document, right? So we can go ahead, pull it in from text answers, oh my God, please don't let me have to drill down that many times to find anything else in this video. And then lastly, we'll just put 2 spaces here. Sorry, not spaces, line breaks. Now, we'll add them in here. Typically speaking, guys, just so you know, like this is a line break, obviously, right? And you could do this, but in make.com, they have a special character for line break. So if you do this, a lot of the times, it depends on kind of the module, but sometimes it won't recognize a line break by just, you know, going down like that. It recognizes a line break by the actual symbol line break, because it doesn't, like, this is not text. This is like a keyword that make.com is defined specifically as a line break. So if you want to have a line break in make.com and have them register that as a line break, you got to use this symbol here. Okay, we'll click OK. And then we have 2 more steps until this whole thing is completed. We're going to convert this into a PDF. So we can use pdf.co. You can get started for free using this. And we're going to do HTML to a PDF file. So if you go pdf.co, you're just going to need to sign up for an account and then log in and grab your API key. So it will ask you to, when you come in here to add an account, it will ask you for their API key. And in the, let's just say, dashboard here, I'm going to log in, and we're going to find that API key together so that you can use that as well. Okay, this could win the Guinness World Record of slowest load speed I've ever seen in my life. Okay, sweet. So you could just come in here and it literally like highlights it. That wasn't even me that highlighted it. I wish I could claim credit for that because that was freaking cool, but that was not me. So just copy the API key here and then come back in and then connect it in. You're good to go. Okay, sweet. The conversion type is going to be HTML to PDF. And for the input HTML code, we're just going to copy the HTML that we generated from this markdown file here. And moving forward, even the module in make.com is slow. Come on, pdf.co, you gotta get your shit together. Okay, the output file name is going to be the title here. Oh man, I swear this has to be the last time that I do that. That's annoying. Okay, orientation is gonna be portrait, paper size is gonna be letter, and we're pretty much good to go here. We wanna make sure that we download a file here, right? So this is going to download that PDF file. And lastly, we can just email that over to somebody. So we'll select email, send an email. You could use Gmail here, but actually one thing that I recently discovered is email is just incredibly better. And the reason why it's better is because the content type, you can do plain text in the Gmail module. If I was to say, come in here and use Gmail instead, you have to use HTML for things like line breaks, but with this you don't. You can put in a line break like this and it'll actually recognize it as a line break. So I would highly recommend using this. Just make sure to choose the right account. Okay, sweet. And we're gonna select the to address. Now we can get that from the first module down here, text, answers, and the value. And then for the subject line, we'll say, your ebook is ready to go. And we'll put in the title here as well. So they know what ebook it is, right? It gives it a personal touch so they remember, oh yeah, that's what I wrote about. And then we'll just copy and paste the email down here. I am just gonna copy my email in here. And I'm just gonna say, hey, and we'll reference their first name one more time from the first module when they entered that in. This is why it's always super important to put that in, right? The data in, first name. Okay, sweet. I'm just gonna leave this blank because when I added this question after I ran this module. So essentially what happened was I already ran this and then I asked the first question. I added the first question in afterwards, so it doesn't actually have the value. So if you guys can just add in the value for first name, it should work. And I'll just leave it as such. Thanks for requesting a free ebook from us. We've created it. It's attached below. Let us know your thoughts. We just need to attach this and then we're good to go. In the attachment section down here, you can click the plus button and it's automatically going to attach that pdf.co file right in, and then we're good to go. We'll click OK, save this, and I am going to generate this whole article. And once I generate this for you guys, I'll be right back and show you the results. All right, so it's completed, right? Now I'm gonna show you guys the results. I just wanna do two things here, just really quickly go over it. I removed this filter here for the final product, right? So we're not just filtering out for the first result, but we're allowing all chapters to flow through. And then in this markdown, just please make sure to include in here H1 tag. I don't know why I had a backslash there, but this is what the H1 tag looks like, right? So this kind of like sideways looking hat, and then this other sideways looking hat. And then the same thing here, just with this backslash there, right? We can click OK, and then we're good to go. You can save that. Now coming into the into the email here, you can take a look at the email sent. Hey, thanks for requesting a free ebook from us. We've created it. It's attached below. Let us know your thoughts. Best, Jono. And here it is. So how to get your first job on Upwork. Chapter 1, understanding Upwork is your freelance platform. Nice, cool little image. Subtitles with right formatting and all this text. There is some white spaces because the images take up more space than what's allowed on the remainder of the page, right? And you can just scroll down and yeah, it's super cool, guys. I mean, that's how you can generate fully customizable ebooks in like no clicks, because you know the person that's requesting is filling it out. The only other thing you may want to add in here is maybe no text when you're generating images. So if you come back in here, maybe you say it's up to taste, but you could tell Dalle 3, please don't include text in the images, right? Text or numbers or digits or anything like that, right? You can click save and then, you know, you can run it. So yeah, anyways, guys, that's essentially it. Thank you guys so much for watching if you made it this far. Now, if you like this content, then please make sure to subscribe to my channel down below. Give me a thumbs up. And if you do have questions, leave them in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you ASAP here. And yeah, hopefully this helps you acquire new leads, right? Whether you're using it on a lead magnet on your landing page. Like, I can't tell you enough how helpful it is to have a lead magnet where you deliver something to somebody in exchange for their contact information. It's going to allow you to get a lot more potential leads, or maybe you want it as a newsletter sign up or something like that, right? You're offering them something in exchange for that email, which is worth a lot of money. And just, I think the last time I looked at it, like, email marketing was the highest ROI marketing. I don't know if it was 20 or 40x, like a return on investment. I think it was 40, right? So every email is very valuable because you only pay for it once, and then you can market to that person literally for the rest of your business, right? Which is super powerful, and you can sell them over and over and over again. So this is a great way to acquire that email so that you guys can get more money, or how you can, generate ebooks quickly as a first round draft and then publish them after some review to sell them on Amazon or stuff like that. So thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.